New Japan had its Dominion show on Sunday. We'll be generous and call it a mixed bag. There were some good matches for sure, a couple of really good ones, in fact, but several things on this show, including a trio of surprises, fell absolutely flat. There were also a few unforced errors that we're not used to seeing for New Japan. Dominion won't be considered one of the classic shows, and we're going to get into why. Has New Japan headed down the wrong path? We're going to discuss it with Jeremy Finestone. I'm Steven Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. Plenty to talk about. Mokuyobi desu. It is Thursday. We're ready to go here in our normal time slot, and we've had a few days to digest what we saw on Sunday, Jeremy. There were some real troubling signs that we encountered. Dominion 2025. I left this one. It's one show. That's what I kept telling myself. It's one show. But there were some real troubling. There were some real troubling patterns that we saw here, and I was not coming out of this feeling enthusiastic. And I almost dreaded watching some of these New Japan Soul shows, which helped a little bit. We'll talk about the Soul shows and how they've been a little bit different. There are a couple of things on them that made me happy, but leaving Dominion, I was disappointed in some of the decision making, in the direction, and just troubling signs ahead in a lot of ways. And we're going to talk about it. It seems like the fans might even agree.
Regression is real. I feel like we have significantly regressed from before Dominion to after. We now have one big group of good guys and one big group of bad guys, and then a couple of splinter factions, and then a couple of unincorporated wrestlers throughout all of New Japan. And we're in a rebuild phase. I have thought about this a lot. And it seems pretty clear that there is going to be some power vacuums. There's going to be some people elevated to a top position. Get ready for an era of evil again, in my opinion, based off of what we've seen here. And they can do stuff with this. But it does feel like we're doing kind of kids promotion kind of stuff.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's very simplified. So it's like to make it as easy as possible for people to follow. There's the good guys and there's the bad guys. And now you have this giant group of good guys. You folded in just 4 guys officially into Hontai. LIJ is gone. I got the email from the Tokon shop, the final sale for LIJ, and just 5 guys, just 4 guys, all that stuff. I thought about buying a Day of the Dead hoodie for LIJ. It looked pretty cool. But, like, it's done. There's 4 factions now, right? Bullet Club, TMDK, Hontai, and House of Torture.
United Empire.
And United Empire. So we got 5. But, I mean, like, United Empire is what, 3 guys? 4 guys?
There's not a whole lot left of it, yeah. To be sure. And of course, we're going to talk about this Dominion show match by match, and we're about to do that and get started on it. I want to say hello to the folks that are here live. Fernando is here. We're glad to have you. Maria Graciela Saez is here. Colin, I'm glad you're here. Man, we need you. Brad, same. I'm glad we've got some people here. I understand the Flaming Shark's going to be joining us again live soon when he can. It might maybe not be today, but
shout out to the Shark.
Yeah, and you know, I just this show was a real mess in a lot of ways. And it was in Osaka-jo Hall Sunday, the 15th. And the first thing that we noticed is that attendance was down from last year, which is a disappointment. This one drew 6,500. And last year drew 7,200. So down 700 people from that one. That one was headlined, of course, by 2 matches, really. There was the Best of the Super Junior Finals between Ishimori and El Desperado. That one ended the night. And then the semi-main was a big one. It was the lumberjack match between Evil and John Moxley, if you remember that one, for the world title. That one drew 7,200 in Osaka-jo. This one only 6,525. The year before that, so we're talking 2023, 7,040 for Sonata versus Tsuji. Remember, Tsuji came back. That was his big return, was the world title shot against Sonata. That one drew over 7,000. This one's 6,500. In fact, it's the lowest attendance since the 2022 version of Dominion. 6,068 for Jay White versus Kazuchika Okada. And that was when we were still coming off the hangover from the pandemic there. Well, go ahead.
Do you think the decision to hold off on Desperado and Fujita on this show cost it tickets?
A few, yes, but not 700. I think this is a sign that there will be an attendance dip for big shows anyway, with Naito gone. Like, this is the first major show without him at all. Remember, this is the
Naito dip.
I think so. There's really not a whole lot else to explain it than that, to me anyway. It seems like the most obvious one. We know Naito's a draw. We know that he was the most popular guy in the company, and certainly the LIJ faction, the biggest among that. Mm-hmm. I've said it many times when I was there for Wrestle Kingdom. I was not surprised they were popular. I was shocked that they were the most popular by the margin they were. They were much more popular than the second place group. Losing him will hurt. And I think this is just a symbol here that maybe people weren't, there were Naito fans that just weren't interested in paying to see it without him for now. And it's going to be up to them to get him back. But I think first major show without Naito, this dip in attendance, after we have seen even him in a non-prominent role, this Goto bump, it makes me wonder.
It's a number of different factors that have caused the attendance to be soft at this point that they could rely on in the past.
And Brad mentions this is something you brought up last week. Is that, did they hurt their own momentum by not having shows leading up to Dominion? That's another part of it too, because there were no Road 2 shows. It went right from Best of Super Juniors into that. And then Super Juniors didn't, the Super Junior tournament itself, the finals, there wasn't a title shot here. That is a fair point. It could be part of it. I do think it's part of it. I think that more people would have come if Fujita versus Desperado were there. Would it have exceeded 7,200? Not convinced of that. I think Naito not being there hurt things quite a bit.
It's like the Best of the Super Junior was the end of the first half of 2025 New Japan. And basically we just got a flash forward 6 months later, but it was only like a month, and everything has suddenly changed in New Japan in like one night, but there was no sense of synchronicity or like continuity to get us from what happened at the end of the Best of the Super Juniors to what happened tonight. Like, it was total whiplash. The moment I saw Don Fale come out.
Yeah, don't get ahead of us now.
I know. I'm just saying, like, I was using it as an example. Is like, I felt like New Japan went with the budget option in all of their decision making. Like, there was no sense of imagination. There was no sense of like, let's really like surprise the crowd. They went with what they had on their chalkboard of talent and said, hey, this person, and this person, we're going to put them on the heel side, and this person, we're going to separate them to the babyface side, and we're going to just kind of regress everything like I'm saying. And it just felt like there was no wow to any of this discovery. Yeah, it's a heel group. Like you're supposed to despise the decisions and not be excited by it, but at the same time, it was a flat delivery.
The pre-show tag team match started off with the Young Lions. When Dominion happened, we had 4 Young Lions. Now we have 6. We'll get to that when we get to New Japan Solo. But we had the 2 longest tenured ones, Katsuya Murashima and Shomakato against Daiki Nagai and Masatori Yasuda in the opener. This one went about 8 minutes or so. And by the book, I mean, the most experienced one, the guy that seems the most progressed of the four, the furthest along, Murashima defeated the one that has been hurt the most and is probably at the bottom of that rung, which is Yasuda, through no fault of his own. Yasuda's working hard and everything like that. Poor guy keeps getting hurt. So Murashima beat Yasuda, and that shored up the hierarchy for now among the young lions. I did think it was interesting. Jeremy, Nagai has been one of the best promos in the company since he started. His backstage comments are terrific, and he's usually a trash talker and kind of a snarky kind of a jerk in them in a terrific way, in a very entertaining way. His comments at Dominion were 180 degrees from that. He was choking up and talking about how if it weren't for New Japan, he feels like he would have been a lowlife, just another thug in his hometown. He was in the army for a while there, the Japanese army, before he got into pro wrestling, but he feels like he wouldn't have had a whole lot of future had it not been for New Japan. Instead, he's had people in his family and people that he knows from his hometown come up to him and just say, I see how hard you're working. It motivates me to want to work harder. And the whole thing kind of broke down Nagai there. And he cried a little bit in his comments about how much this all means to him, which just made me love the guy even more than I already did. So.
I did not realize how much I liked him until I watched that New Japan Soul show yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
and I realized I really did like this dude.
Yeah, and all four of them have their good points and their weaknesses, but again, it just looks like Murashima is closer to Excursion than anyone else. And poor Yasuda, if he can stay healthy, probably further along. Shomakado's been hurt a bunch too, so it's tough life, young liondom. So hopefully these guys can stay healthy and continue to progress.
I remember when Yasuda chipped his tooth, I was like, "Oh man, you just can't catch a break."
Yeah, exactly. We are going to get to your comments too when we come to the matches that they're mostly referring to. We're going to get to you guys, so I don't want you to feel like we're ignoring you. I just want to get things lined up when it comes to your comments. So
Mr. Conway here's locked and loaded with his Dominion thoughts today.
I am. And we began the main card with an 8-man tag. There was an X involved. So in this one, it was the War Dogs, Chase Owens, Clark Connors, Drill Maloney, Taiji Ishimori. And then on the other side, we had Ren Narita, Sanada, and Yujiro Takahashi come out. Then the music hit. And if it's possible for all the air to go out of the building before the show really starts, it happened right here because it was none other than Bad Luck Fale, who came down to ringside, was introduced as Don Fale. So that's his third name now. He was King Fale for a while at first. Then he turned heel, Bad Luck Fale, and now Don Fale. And yeah, when are we going to learn about these X's? How many X's in a row have turned out to be complete duds? And
are you excited about the next one that we got at Tanahashi Jam?
Well, I just don't know when we're going to learn. Chase Owens acted like he was upset, but I noticed this right away. Fale grabbed him by the collar, but never hit him when the match started. Grabbed him, didn't hit him, and I knew immediately then what was going to happen. The only good thing about this, and I mean the only good thing, is that this didn't take long. So it was all over in 6 minutes, 44 seconds when Chase Owens faked like he was going to stop Sanada from hitting Drill Maloney, I guess, with the guitar, and instead turned on Maloney, joins the House of Torture. Since then, he is dressing like he's been watching tapes of Black Bart, the wrestler from the 80s with the long trench coat and cowboy boots that don't fit him. And
what was that show with the Lorenzo Lamas Renegade?
Oh yeah, maybe he's trying. Yeah, if Renegade really let himself go, he looks like a clown in this outfit right now. And Fale's,
he looks like the Punisher from the Wild West. Like he's cosplaying the Punisher in the Wild West.
This was rough, and such a disappointment. And yes, the turn by Chase got a pop because it was a turn in the middle of the match, but this is not good news. We were talking about this. I said they don't need more people to eat pins. Fale's barely part-time. I don't know if he's going to be over more, but he's been focused more on his school and Tamashi and Oceana. Owens is a good guy to lose, to eat pin, but they have Yujiro. They have Dick Togo on that, for that matter. I mean, there are people in House of Torture that can lose. And now they have Chase Owens. I just don't see, but we'll get more into House of Torture with the next match. But this started the show on a low note, and it really struggled to pick up.
It also had the stupid babyface syndrome with Clark and Drilla being absolutely shocked that Chase would turn on them in the middle of the match when every sign would tell you that this was happening. And one of my least favorite tropes in wrestling is when the baby faces are incredibly dumb. Yeah.
And
you keep going.
Yeah, and Venkin just says one night of the house always wins, and that's what we had here. And Venkin just says the heel group is looking like an army. Brad feels bad. He may have manifested.
Yeah, I had to give him credit for that one.
I felt bad he put Fale out in the universe and we brought him up as the X in Discord. I think we were all hoping for something more. And yeah, all the original Bullet Club guys left are now House of Torture. So that's a key moment. In fact, Fale leaving means there are no original members of Bullet Club left in Bullet Club. He was the last one. So the original group, of course, Prince Devitt, now Finn Balor. You had Tama Tonga, Carl Anderson, and Bad Luck Fale. Now none of those guys are in Bullet Club currently. First time we've had that in 10 years, that none of the originals are part of the group. So after this one, we had a tag match after that. So this one was TMDK, Ryohei Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. against El Phantasmo and Shota Umino. Decent enough match, really nothing wrong with it, but it felt like a preview tag on a card. Not much happened here. Zack beat Umino with a double leg Nelson, certainly didn't hit him with any big finish. It was just kind of a pin that happened in a match that was designed not to hurt Umino too much, but it also didn't set up anything very much. We already knew that TV title match was probably coming with Phantasmo and Oiwa.
There was even more to it.
Well, and the Zack thing and Umino and all that, but it was just kind of there. The match was good enough, but we asked when we were doing the preview, like, why it was there. And New Japan didn't have much of an answer. It was just to kind of get these four guys on the card.
When I saw the G1 brackets and who was in each bracket, and I saw the pinfall here, I was like, oh.
Yeah, but you didn't know who was in the G1 bracket when you saw this.
No, but when I saw the G1 bracket, then I understood why they did this match.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
That's why I was saying about the regression. Like they're laying stuff out there. They're doing these matches. They're doing these pinfalls. And then immediately they're putting these guys in a G1 bracket with each other. It's like, I see. Okay. And it doesn't mean that Shota beating Zack in the G1. But if you start looking at what dates they're wrestling and the pace and who you might think is going to be making it to the thing, it's like, well, he might be.
Yeah, I just don't think this added anything to the G1. This isn't really a chapter on the way to anything. It was just kind of a match where one guy beat another guy and I don't think much of it came out of it. So then we were on to Hiroshi Tanahashi and Yuya Uemura. This was another one that in its time, again, not knowing anything about the G1 yet, this one was weird. It was okay. The match was fine. Tanahashi wasn't moving great, but they did fine. The win showed us this wasn't the final match between them, though, because Tanahashi got a flash pin on Uemura, and that's not the way they're going to end this. So as soon as that pinfall happened, you just thought, oh, well, I guess we're going to be doing this again soon. The issue with it, though, is they blew the finish. They got all tangled up. It didn't look good. No, it looked clunky. The Uemura's shoulder was clearly up, but the referee had to count 3 because it was the finish, and it fell flat. So far we've had a couple of real disappointing turns, a match where not much happened, and then Hiroshi Tanahashi and Uemura kind of bungled their own finish, and the show is just crawling at this point. It's just really not going well at all.
Yeah, mechanically, technically, not a great match. But I will give them credit that they gave some thought into, well, we're putting Hiroshi Tanahashi into the G1, so we got to give him some wins.
Yeah, and I expected that. I expected that. He missed it the last couple of years, but he's got to do one more G1, right? I mean, even if he has to get the cortisone shots every night, he's got to go in there.
How are you going to wrestle everyone on the roster if you're not taking the advantage of doing? And they're not going to be the best matches, but everyone is going to be emotional wrestling Tanahashi at the last G1 in there. What are we doing here? It is going to be a spectacle. So I get it. But again, when we saw the G1 bracket, you could see something there. You're like, oh, I see. These guys are on the same block too. Cool.
Mm. But again, it's almost like they're stepping on their own show with that stuff. It's just strange. And then, but Brad wanted to mention that he liked the end sequence of the previous match, the tag match. Last few minutes were nicely worked, led to a finish. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Zach, Shota, ELP, and we were all terrific wrestlers. The match itself was fine. It's just that it didn't really matter much, I guess, is the whole thing. That could have not been there, and you better do the same thing.
Zach got the pinfall and confirmed a title match out of it, too.
Oh, but that was going to happen anyway, too. I mean, that's another thing that
that's what they do. The guy getting the pinfall is, in one of the early matches, ends up being the title guy, and they've run it back, 3 times now, and I'm not particularly excited for it, but here we are.
And Venkins asked, how is ELP? Because I think I saw something. And not so good, as it turns out. So ELP wrestled the first night of the New Japan Soul Tour and then was pulled off of today's show. As we go on the air, I don't have an update, but he was pulled off of today's show. Suddenly, they made the announcement as the card began. And he was not cleared to wrestle today. So, yeah, he's a little banged up. Hopefully, it's not anything severe, but we will await any further details.
I completely missed what happened. What
seems to have tweaked a knee somehow, So Brad mentions Yuya on the Soul Tour. We'll get to this in a little while too. We talk a little bit about the Soul Tour, but he is taken to using the Aces High type of thing. Again, it's Aces High when the opponent is standing. It's high fly flow when he's laying down. But he's hit the flying body press basically to really kind of cement the whole Tanahashi thing in there. So, but yeah, this one again, we're 3 matches into this thing, and we've seen some decent wrestling in that tag, but it's been a thud. Now we move on to the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title. So Kanemaru comes out with his arm in a sling, which no one believed. Everyone knew that this was garbage. Said they had a fill in. Okay, fine. Lights go out. Video starts playing. And of all people, DOUKI returns and joins House of Torture. Now, we're going to get to the decision-making behind that. Let's talk about the match real quick. The match actually was pretty good, I thought. I thought that it wasn't terribly long. It was about, just under 11 minutes. The action in the match was fine. DOUKI looked pretty good. Didn't really show any bad effects from the elbow, was using it and all that. Sho is a good wrestler. Wato and Yo, both good wrestlers. And the heels did the shenanigans. There were all the usual cheating. Of course, Kanemaru, that ruse with the arm in a sling lasted seconds before he was in there interfering and all this stuff. And I believe he has his pipe back. DOUKI has his pipe back, what that he used to use with Suzuki-gun. All that stuff was used. Those titles change hands a lot. You can make a case for turning a popular wrestler heel and saying that, that pendulum will swing. If they're very over as a babyface, they'll be just as hated as a heel. You can make that case.
Has there been a successful title defense of these titles in 2025?
It's been a minute. There are other stories for DOUKI, the comeback, etc. The building his way back to where he was and getting back into the dome. You can even play it where he has to overcome the demon of it. The mental block of the last time I did this match in this building, I got hurt. And I had to give up everything that I had worked so hard for. And now I have to go back and climb the mountain again. Isn't that so much more interesting than I don't like Hantai, so I joined HOT? That's the only story there is here. It's the only one he gave. The only explanation he gave afterwards is like, I don't like hentai. That's it. So then he just turns. This was lazy storytelling when they had a much more interesting story there. And they put DOUKI in with House of Torture so that it'll take away some of his strengths, which House of Torture, we see it with Sho all the time. We know Sho is a terrific wrestler, but now DOUKI's going to be doing cheap shenanigans instead of being one of the best juniors in the world and wrestling like it. Very deeply disappointing to me. And then we'll get to House of Torture overall. But for this one, DOUKI was a guy that could hang with Desperado. He was a guy that was just as good as Hiromu in some cases now. This version of Hiromu that's kind of situational dependent, and whether he's, whether he wants to really put it into fifth gear, he could be that rival for Desperado that he needs. And instead, we're going to get ref bumps and hitting people with pipes, and it just cheapens the whole thing for a guy who was one of the very best. And it's a less interesting story. I think this was an unforced error by New Japan here. I think they gave up a good story for 1/10 of a much less interesting one.
This took the wind out of my sails immensely when I saw DOUKI as the guy. It was one of those like, oh, no, you've got to be kidding me. And I didn't love it. I didn't love the presentation. I was okay with the presentation. I didn't hate it, but I spent a lot of time this week, probably more time than I probably should have, trying to think about why they're doing what they're doing. And they've basically taken, 3 guys now from Just 5 Guys, because Kanemaru was originally in Just 5 Guys, Sonata, and now DOUKI. And then you've had the other 3 guys that have been members of there. You've got Taichi, you've got, I don't even know where Taka stands on all this, but I assume he's going to make a decision. And then you got Yuya over on the other side. And it's just kind of like the Just 5 Guys thing was a failure. The whole concept of the group was like the first of many baffling decisions by Sonata in the last couple of years that led to him wearing a giant Gonzalez cosplay out to the ring today. Ring at Dominion.
Didn't even get to that. I don't know what he's doing.
It's just one of those, the dude is out of his mind in one of those, I am a pro wrestler and I'm going to do the Western pro wrestling thing. So when you see that and then you think, oh, great, DOUKI's in with that lot, you're just like, what a waste. But there's some hope in this that they are trying to reestablish House of Torture as a legitimate top heel group with a number of cartoonish caricatures of villains, but you are interspersed with actual work rate talent within the entire group. You need a bad guy with a good work rate in New Japan. And if DOUKI is going to be the top heel in the junior heavyweight division for the next couple of years, that is actually a really good position to be in. That was the Taiji Ishimori. That was the kind of that guy. And the Bullet Club is going to be babyface. If Desperado and Fujita are going to be your baby faces to lead the way, who's the top bad guy? It can't be Sho. It's not going to be Kanemaru.
Why can't it be Sho? He's talented enough to do it.
I think the die is cast on those guys. I think the die is cast on Sho, and I think the die is cast on Yo. And if you needed a hot heel to elevate in that position, it can't be the guy who won the title by disqualification or countout or whatever it was a year ago, and then try and tell us that this guy is a legitimate heel work rate champion. You have to rehabilitate or find someone else to lead the way. So I see DOUKI as an option. I don't love it. I really don't love it because he was set for things, but this could have always been the plan. You know what I mean? It could have always been that he loses the title at some point between Wrestle Kingdom and now, and then he goes away and he comes back and he's turned to the dark side. It's not completely clear if this was a pivot, but I'm willing, if New Japan is actually committed to doing work rate with this faction, I'm going to give it a little bit more leeway, but I need to see it real quick.
Yeah, Brad said he liked the heel DOUKI better than face. That's fine, but this would have worked better with Kanemaru as a partner since they have history, and they were in the group for a little while together.
I like the idea that Kanemaru was the guy that made it happen.
I don't have a problem with him being a heelish character. I have a problem with the House of Torture because it's just going to take away all the stuff that he does, a lot of the stuff that he does really well. And there's going to be that pall over his matches now, where instead of just thinking, oh, this is going to be a great wrestling match, we're just going to sit and watch DOUKI and wait for the ref bump. And I just...
I'm going to miss the Suplex de la Luna more than you even know.
Mm-hmm. So it's not a baby face. And again, there are more interesting stories to tell of him climbing back to the mountain. And Venkin mentioned something that it's true. He said he should have lost to Desperado before turning. Now, then you can make a case. Then you can. That's more interesting thing. He comes back. He faces Desperado. He loses, and then afterwards he's like, I can't get this guy. I wrestle him in the dome. I break my arm in half. Then I wrestle him again and I lose. I need to do all this other stuff to get him. That's his boogeyman.
When would this happen? Okay, like
Jeremy, I'm saying that that would have been more interesting than him just walking up there and going, I don't like Hantai. It's just this was so lazy. This was so lazy.
But the dude came back from injury, and this was the second biggest show of the year. If you didn't do this tonight, you're potentially waiting until after the G1 to bring this guy in and to explain.
There's a show coming up at the Tokyo Budokan. Right. There's the Tanahashi Jam coming.
Here's what I'm saying. You do the show you do the match with Desperado. He comes back. You do the match with Desperado in like the end of June, beginning of July at that whole tour. Then you have the G1, and then the post G1, whatever the big show is, the beginning of September is literally the first time that you can like do this whole transitional turn of DOUKI because of the way the schedule is. It was kind of a now or never thing. And it
wasn't. No, he wasn't. You could have waited.
It was.
You could have waited. It could have been a couple months. We're busy. We've got Dominion, then we have G1. The junior heavyweight story can wait until after the G1. Just that you don't have to come back the day you're cleared. If there's a better story to tell, you can wait.
Like, I thought everything was regressive, but for what they wanted to do, like you couldn't do a match with Desperado.
I can't believe you're making excuses for this. I cannot believe you're making excuses for this.
I don't see how you could have it both ways with the suggestion that Venkin made, and that was the only thing that I was saying.
You just don't have to do it right away. He doesn't have to come back the very day he's cleared. You can wait until the story is right. Venkin's saying he wants that WWE deal. Now let's talk about House of Torture. Now we've gotten to this far. Let's just talk about a little bit about House of Torture, because here's a lot. There are a lot of issues with this, but there are now 10 members of House of Torture. Now you would need 2 10-man tags just to get everybody on the card. Just 4 guys has formally joined Hantai. Is the idea a clear line of good versus bad with some sort of end game type of battle coming? I mean, what is this? That we're just going to have only 2 groups? There's black hats versus white hats. The problem is House of Torture was annoying enough because they don't do the distractions and the ref bumps well. It always looks silly. The ref gets nudged a little bit and he's down for 10 minutes while they do 15 things, or the referee has to pretend he doesn't see stuff that's happening right in front of him, because again, this isn't the kind of stuff New Japan does well. They bury the referees with it, or they make them look silly, or a lot of the House of Torture stuff was just goofy. Mm-hmm. The issue to me now is that was annoying enough, irritating enough when it was on every show. With 10 members, you are talking 2 to 3 matches per card of this type of crap. This isn't why we like New Japan. This isn't why you go to watch New Japan, to see piss poor refereeing. You can do that with AEW, for God's sakes. And at least with some of this stuff, they, like I said, they just don't, it's not good in that it always looks kind of doofy. Like the referee barely gets nudged out for 5 minutes. I mentioned that already. I'm just saying that this is all the stuff for like, okay, it's once a night. Wrestling's a variety show. This one match isn't going to be great because they're going to do all this, but then we can move on. Now we can't. Now they're involved in almost every feud in the company, it feels like, and it's going to be at least 2 or 3 times a night. We're going to be seeing this bad version of something else that's not really what we like about Strong Style or about New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I know that this isn't going to be forever, and eventually this will all come to a head or whatever. But in the meantime, this is not going to be fun to watch or enjoyable to watch. We've gotten a taste of it on Soul, where now there are 2 10-man tags. The ones with DOUKI and Sho and Kanemaru haven't been bad because at least the wrestling is good. The ones with Sanada and Chase and Fale haven't been very good. But now we're going to have to, again, I mentioned this, like instead of settling down for a good match, 2 to 3 times a card, we're just going to be waiting for the bad ref bump. And nothing's going to happen until then. And that's disappointing to me. And it's taking enjoyment away because this isn't the version of the company I want to see. And it's not why New Japan is an alternative to all that stuff. The skits and the constant interview segments and chasing people around backstage for conveniently placed cameras and all this kind of stuff about American wrestling that has exhausted me. And that's not directed at either one of the main companies, it's both of them. It's just, I can't do it. And to bring this House of Torture stuff up and down the New Japan card, so now it's consistent all the way through a show, that mentally that's exhausting to me. I don't want to see this. And it's troubling for me that we're going to have to go through a long period of seeing House of Torture do this over and over again, night after night. I don't think I'm overreacting because House of Torture doesn't do matches without this stuff. And now there are too many of them to avoid in a card. So this is troubling to me. And I don't think it's what the fan, I understand that they're a little more over in Japan than they are with the American fans. I understand that. But I also feel like, remember, it wasn't terribly long ago that Tanahashi came out as president, half in character, half out, and kind of apologized for all the overbooking in the House of Torture stuff. Now it seems they've doubled down on it.
So, I don't think you're overreacting either. And I just wanted to make that clear before I go into my own personal soliloquy about how I feel about House of Torture. And that is, last week on this show, we talked about this being a House of Torture event with the way that everything was laid out. Exactly how important this was all going to be treated was going to be made clear by the impact that House of Torture had. And for you to be frustrated, upset, feeling like this is not what you signed up for, to get multiple House of Torture multi-man matches that are basically the back and forth that you see, I get it. I really do. I'm just not there yet. You know, like, I am willing to just sit and take in the threshold and see where this goes. Is this going to end up being like a whole archetypal Joseph Campbell good versus evil kind of thing with Goto versus evil kind of thing? I don't know. I don't think that's terribly exciting, but I also see one big group of good guys, one big group of bad guys, a couple of unaffiliated people who could be leaders of their own factions, and you have a couple of these other factions that are hanging on by a thread. I'm seeing these factions, and I don't feel like a whole lot of them fit in these big versions of them, and there could be splintering off of these things. You know, they're pooling them all together, and they could potentially be splitting all of these guys up into another thing. If this ends up being what we get out of House of Torture, and for the next 6 months, you and I are going to have to eat cereal and watch a House of Torture match as they're using clubs and whatever, that's not going to be a good time. And we're going to be talking about it every week, how much we don't enjoy it. I'm not necessarily sure that that's where we're headed right now. But I'm more open-minded than not.
But where else could it go? I just don't. Yeah, this is what House of Torture does. It's literally the definition of it is that they don't want to have good matches. You know, they want to throw it in your face. Well, I want to watch good matches, and I know it's all the story. But here's the thing, too. It has to go on for a while, and then if House of Torture eventually loses or whatever, if they're going to split half the company into House of Torture, it feels like they kind of are. That has to go on. And then how do you even, you're not going to turn half of them babyface in 3 months. This is going to go on for like
but they could split into another heel group. Like there could be.
And stop cheating?
No, they'll just do a different form of cheating. You know, it's like not all of the, you still got Jake Lee out there. Some of these guys aren't Bullet Club. Bullet Club is now a babyface group. Some of the people that are currently injured on Bullet Club are injured. It doesn't necessarily feel like David Finlay and Goto are on the same page here. I'm just saying there's stuff out there that doesn't necessarily make me feel that like the die is cast, the concrete is set, this is how it's going to be. There's just it literally just had a backstage comment where it's like, I guess we're joining this faction. You know, it's like, how do you guys feel about it? Okay, well, we're doing that. And it's just one of those, like, we're getting a lot of that throughout this thing. But 3 months ago, there were 2 factions that existed that don't exist now. And I'm not necessarily sure in 2 months there won't be 2 new factions that exist that don't exist right now.
But people are already going to be leaving House of Torture to join them?
No, I mean, Shingo and Yoda could both have their own factions with people following under them easily.
But I'm still saying you still have 10 members of House of Torture that are going to be going around doing these shenanigans in other matches. It's just too many of these guys. It's going to weigh down the whole company, and it's going to take a long time for them to switch anybody out of those positions into something else. So these people are in House of Torture for a while, wrestling House of Torture for a while, and that's not good news. It's not good news.
And I'm more open-minded to you than you on this, because when they first established House of Torture, when Evil defected from LIJ, they put the title on him, and then they took the title off, and you kind of knew what it was right then and there. I think right now there is a possible opportunity to rehabilitate what House of Torture is and make them more of a viable work rate heel group if you were so inclined right now. I'm not saying that they are.
What evidence did you see of that on Sunday?
I am just looking at all of the landscape and just thinking, hey, if you wanted to do this, I'm playing the advocate. I am not doom scrolling. I am not doing anything other than just trying to look at this from a business aspect of what they could do, as opposed to just being like, this is bad and they should not do this whatsoever. They've decided to do it. So now I'm looking at it like, how can you make this work?
Yeah, and I didn't see any signs that they're going to. All I saw was that they took people, gave them a bunch of weapons, and now we're going to get ref bumps and weapons more than we used to. This is not good news. Next one was the IWGP Tag Team title matches, the heavyweight one. And this was Callum Newman and Great Khan against Taichi and Tomohiro Ishii. This was the first time on the show that things started to pick up and feel pretty good again for me here. This was a good match. And the fans were pretty solidly behind Taichi and Ishii, of course. They weren't really booing Newman and Okan, but they were the sentimental favorites for sure, Taichi and Ishii here. Taichi did sell the DOUKI defection. He came out looking pretty depressed for this match right there, but he focused. And throughout this one, Taichi was doing most of the selling. Ishii was doing most of the rallying. And fans were into Taichi when he finally made his own comeback. They had a nice little spot where Ishii hit his brainbuster off of on an opponent off of Taichi's back. Like Taichi was setting up a Black Mephisto. I believe it was Newman that was resisting it, and Ishii ended up clobbering Newman right off of Taichi's back and gave him the brainbuster. And then it was the Black Mephisto to win. Even Ishii popped for the finish. He just dove on top of Taichi and hugged him. The fans loved this. They were into it. It was a good match, and it was our first real feel-good moment of the show. Taichi and Ishii capturing it, the tag team titles. They are the heavyweight tag team champions. And it was a good one. And it lasted about 12:46, but it was crisp. It went through, and you can really see what Ishii can and can't do now. Taichi's going to have to carry the freight on this, and he's going to have to be doing most of the matches. Ishii, definitely the guy that's going to come in and bump the heels around. It's not going to be Ishii taking the beatings in these matches. It's going to be Taichi in the Ricky Morton role, so to speak, and Ishii's going to be coming in for the comebacks. But, nevertheless, this worked.
Yeah, I'm not being hyperbolic when I tell you I think this match saved the show. It changed the mood from the first half of it, which was, okay, so that happened. And by the time that Ishii tackled Taichi, I was like, everything is okay in the world. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, we wanted the bad dads to win. The bad dads won, and they won in a way that was like, yeah, that's gratifying. And they won on Father's Day. So, hey.
Yeah, and as Colin mentioned, Ishii's finally won something. Yep, he has. He's
finally, he's got 2 belts. He won something already.
Yeah, he's been a never open weight champion. He's held the trios titles. He's held a bunch.
But kid for a strong title. I mean, that ain't.
But yeah, Brad mentions Ishii jumping on Taichi in celebration was a great moment. Ishii gets a hug from Willow, and he learns to show emotion. I love it. Well, Willow will bring that out of you, won't you?
Even a pit bull would pet in the right way. Will smile.
Yeah, oh, there you go. Nicely done. So that was nice. That was nice. And then in the comments afterwards, it was a big love fest between the two of them, and they decided to join Hantai. That was the thing. They just said, we're just going to join up with Hantai. Yuya Uemura and Taichi agreed to. We haven't heard what Taka's thoughts on that are, but hey, we'll deal with that later. And Colin says they don't count. Okay. But there we go. So then we had the G1 announcement. And now we'll go over the specifics of the G1 names and the blocks later, but we see that Uemura and Tanahashi are in the same block. So we're like, okay, that's that finish. And then we saw that Umino and Zach are in a block. Okay, there was that finish. That's fine. That's a little clunky. Again, a little on the nose. It just seems a little obvious. Not the most subtle booking from New Japan. But the problem is, Jeremy, they put this right here, this G1 announcement in the middle of the show. And they showed us that Evil and Finlay are in the same block, thus completely stepping on the match, telling us before the dog collar match even happens that it's not the blow-off that they've been building it up to be. And then, in fact, these guys are going to be facing each other again in a couple of months. And quite frankly, after watching the dog collar match, which we'll talk about a little later, I wish they hadn't done it at all, and we could have just gone right to this. But again, an unforced error. I mean, just putting it right out there that, this isn't the blow-off. These guys are going to meet again in a couple of months. So don't worry too much about the dog collar match. And, we'll talk about what a dud that thing was. But, like, what's New Japan doing? Like, why don't you put this, like, before the main event? This announcement could have come anywhere. Instead, they step on one of the biggest hyped matches of the entire card. They're like, why are unforced errors from New Japan that we're not used to seeing? They don't usually botch stuff like this. They're usually smarter about this stuff. And this show was just not put together intelligently.
I didn't have the frustration that you had for Finlay and Evil. I was frustrated after I saw the Finlay and Evil match, but I wasn't particularly. I was like, damn it, we're running this back again now? Damn. But no, I looked at it, and are we talking about the G1 now, or this card? Or
well, there's not a heap to talk about. We can now. I was going to stay with Dominion, and then we can do this afterwards. Like
we'll talk about it afterward. But I like the lineup. I'm not particularly upset that there weren't any surprises. It all makes perfect sense to me. And
if you like last year's G1, you'll love this one because it's the exact same G1.
Let's run it back and see how everyone's progressed.
With
the report card.
Yeah, boy, if you like last year's, you'll love this one because we're giving it to you all the same way. All right, so after this, fiasco where we're like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that match too much. We ended up with the never open weight title match. All right, so after the tag team title match, we get this one. Now we've got some momentum up, Jeremy, because this was terrific. Never open weight title match. Oleg Boltin against Konosuke Takeshita. Now, we know Takeshita's fantastic. We sing his praises on here all the time. I want to mention that Boltin absolutely did his part in the match. Mm-hmm. We mentioned early in his career, it's been a while now because he's improved a lot, but we mentioned that it was his facial expressions, his selling. He was a little too stoic in the ring. The reactions weren't there. Sometimes he was doing the moves, but maybe he wasn't expressing himself much. That's all changed. He's picked up all of that. And now he is emoting more. He's showing more fire and not just doing moves, but showing his emotion and his drive to do the move and then doing it and then celebrating them. 100% improvement in that area. He's come a real long way. And, of course, he's in with one of the very best. So Takeshita went for a jumping knee and Boltin caught him, hit the kamikaze, got the win, new champion. Really good match. 13 minutes, 12 seconds. It was tight, but that's probably about what Boltin should be doing. This is about his speed right now. He doesn't need to be doing 20, 25-minute matches. Besides, I had a couple of those coming later on in the card. So we mentioned in the preview, Takeshita is an excellent never open weight champion. Mm-hmm. But if you want to free him up for the G1, yes, now's the time. And they did that, which made me kind of excited, just thinking, oh, yes, Konosuke Takeshita is about to have a deep run in the G1, and I still feel very strongly that he will. And for Boltin, it's the never open weight title is a good one for him as well. So thumbs up all the way around, fun match. And now I felt like the show had a little oomph to it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you said there. The only thing that I would add that this is the third matchup between the three, and I think you've run the course on this, and I don't think that we should run it back with these two for a while. This is their third match in a year. They're in different blocks in the G1. Theoretically, it's going to be a while before they run it back, but just this. I want to see them grow apart before they come back together again. It's kind of where I'm at with these two.
Yeah, and the thing is, with Oleg improving the way he is, when they meet up again the fourth time, it'll be even better than this. And this was damn good. Yeah, and Brad mentioned Oleg having Takeshita's number. I think it is 2-1 right there. Is really good. Got him in the G1 last year. Was really kind of hindered Takeshita in the G1. That loss mattered. Mm-hmm. And then he gets him here. So yeah, the idea that Boltin is a bad matchup, quote unquote, for Takeshita in a kayfabe way. Like obviously they're terrific in the ring together, but the idea that Takeshita can't quite get over this guy, like for whatever reason, this combination of power and whatever else for Boltin is a trouble spot for Takeshita. It's a nice story, and you can come back to that in an important match later. So yeah, this felt good. So now we've got 2 matches. So all right, what do we got next? By God, how are we going to clean this one? Let's bring this one home. Oh, a dog collar match. Dog collar matches. Those are always fun. Here's the thing, Jeremy. I have seen great dog collar matches. Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine. I got to go all the way back there. That was one of the best that anyone's seen. Go back and watch the Starrcade 83. Brilliant stuff. I've seen bad dog collar matches where the people weren't quite ready for that spot yet. Until Dominion 2025, I'd never seen a boring one, but I sure have now. What a slog this match was. This did not work. And so they come out with all the members of House of Torture. First thing all night that's been fairly logical. So, because of course, there's no disqualification in this match. Of course, you bring your whole gang with you. On board. I'm okay. Right? So then Finlay comes out, sees that all of House of Torture is standing in the ring. It looks like a battle royal in there, except they're all wearing matching outfits. So he tells Goto, go get the boys. Okay, on board. All right, everyone's acting like they would actually act if this ridiculous situation were actually taking place, right? Okay. So then the match starts. And they don't interfere. Yet. They will. But it's a no DQ match. Why don't they just attack? And here's my suggestion, Jeremy. Instead of 15 people, or however many it was, standing around there, jiggling their keys in their pockets, watching this thing happen. And believe me, not a whole lot was happening in the ring because this was worked in a very slow, plodding, unimaginative way. They seem to do the very least with this stipulation that they could. And then finally the fight breaks out. It's going to happen, right? I mean, Finlay ends up on the outside. They attack. The War Dogs attack them. Why not just have everybody fight their way around the building and then to the back? And then just have that just writes everybody out of the story for a while so Finlay and Evil can work. Instead, in a no DQ match, they stand there waiting like, oh, we have to wait until the ref's not looking. No, you frickin' don't. That's the point. Next of all, then they do a ref bump in a no DQ match, and then they jump him. It's a no DQ match. You jump him in front of the referee all the time, and he doesn't disqualify you. What were we waiting for here? Plus, the fact is, when it was Finlay and Evil, it was dull. This was bad. And then Finlay tried to gig, and he didn't really bleed a whole lot, and it stopped bleeding immediately. It all came off, and then Evil didn't even bother to do that. No one worked very hard in this match. And it was just everyone, it was like they were just going through motions here. There was no babyface comeback from Finlay. He still doesn't really work as a babyface, wrestle as a babyface much. And Evil didn't even stay in the chain. The damn collar thing broke so that he had to wait patiently while the referee tried to get the thing back on his neck.
Why didn't he just turn the collar around and fix it himself? And then run, like how you put the chain over your shoulder and you fix it, and then you turn the collar back around. Or that one got me.
Yeah, and in the end, they just again, for no reason, waited until the ref was bumped. Then they all attacked, beat down Finlay, and won. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't interesting. It was just another House of Torture. Just beat a guy up again and walk out. Finlay got stretchered out. But this was a really bad version of a dog collar match, and none of this worked. None of it.
We never do it. But what's Dave's star rating for this one?
What's Dave's or mine? I don't care.
I want to know what you think Dave's star rating is.
If he goes over 2, he's out of his damn mind.
He might go negative on this one.
It would deserve it. It was awful. This is just awful. It was poorly thought out, illogically booked. Even within wrestling, this made no sense. Venkin mentions props that the least a reasonable babyface not to go all alone against him. Yeah, he didn't pull a Shota Umino where he looks like a moron. Like, oh, I'll just take them all on. I do this by myself. That's asinine. I don't know what else to say except just if anything could go wrong in this match, it did. And they weren't really trying very hard. I'll say that too. This was dull.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add other than I was pretty disappointed because I was really looking forward to this match, and I felt like we didn't have a babyface in this match, which is kind of a prerequisite for people to get behind.
Yeah, especially in a stipulation match, that's a big deal. If you can do heel versus heel in a stip match, but it needs to be wild and woolly. It needs to be fierce. It needs to be vicious.
Like you had 2 alpha wolves, and all of their betas were like, back off. This is an alpha fight. Yeah, and then they didn't really alpha fight. No, it
wasn't vicious. I mean, they're attached by the neck with a chain. This is supposed to be a fight for your life. This is supposed to be a follow-up to a dog pound match where Renderita damn near bled out and all this. And instead it was just nothing. They didn't try hard. They didn't use the chain well. They certainly didn't do anything creative with it. Now I'm just boggled that, what was it? Finlay wrapped. The most interesting thing they did with the chain was interesting in a bad way, where Finlay rolled into the ring and out of the ring as he kind of wrapped Evil in the chain against the ring post. Then when he did that, he didn't know what to do with Evil when he had him stuck. Again, in a no DQ match, he has 10 friends literally just watching him be immobilized against the ring post. Finlay didn't do anything. And in a couple of seconds, Evil was just out and it was back on the offense against Finlay. It's like they hadn't thought of what to do with the chain before they got there.
Yeah, the time stopped when Evil was wrapped around that post, and Finlay had to climb in and out of the ring like 3 times.
It got
to
laughs.
tie him up.
They were
and then
laughing
he had
at
to
the
go 3 times to undo it. I was like, yeah, you didn't think this went through.
No, it's like they hadn't thought of what to do with this thing. And the crowd was laughing at this at that point. And that was painful to hear because, it's just rough. Plus, again, it had been stepped on. So no matter what happened, we figured that Evil was winning, and then you also knew that it didn't really matter that much because they're going to wrestle
against. I felt
like
Evil was winning when you had all the House of Torture stuff earlier.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those. You knew how important the House of Torture developments were going to be based off of whether they win or lose tonight. So if Evil wasn't winning, you were immediately the teeth were taken out of the equation.
And poor Chris and Walker, who were doing their best to sell this thing.
trying to get behind David Finlay. He's never been a hero, but he's always been a solid whatever it was.
Doing yeoman's work out there. And also the poor guys, I mean, obviously they don't know that Finlay and Evil had nothing planned for this, but they were just saying, oh, none of that weenie touch all 4 corner stuff. This is going to be a fight until the end. And boy, it wasn't. And
should have been a touch all corners match.
It should have been. Yeah.
It would have been better.
Should have been canceled. Should have been canceled. This whole card would have been better if this match had not happened.
Everything is evil, buddy. Everything is evil.
Oh, all right. So we have 2 matches. Yeah. All right. So we have 2 matches left. The good news is these 2 matches damn near redeemed this whole show. Almost. Not quite, but almost. IWGP Global Heavyweight title, Gabe Kidd, Yota Tsuji. 23 minutes, 25 seconds. This was very, very good. There was a intense stare and then a handshake before the match, which got a pop out of the crowd. Again, Gabe is a baby face through and through right now, even though he's acting like he's not in a way. It's interesting the way he's working this. He's still doing the madman thing, yet he's shaking hands.
A bad guy.
Yeah. It's really an interesting line that he's walking right there. He's doing it very well right now.
Right.
This match was good. It was worked like a main event match because they knew they were going a long time. So it had that New Japan big match feel where you start kind of slow, but not boring. But you're establishing some things early. Things kind of kicked in actually off of an accident. Kid got up on the ropes, middle rope, I believe it was, and whiffed a senton off the ropes. He just missed Tsuji, who was hanging over the top rope. Just missed him.
And ended up hitting rope. Never doing it again.
Well, yeah. Was it the top? Okay. Okay, pardon me. So he lands, hits the back of his head, shaken up. Accidents happen. The best thing you can do is find a way to cover them in a way that works for the match, and I think Gabe did that. So after he did it, the referee checks on him because he's like, holy crap, you all right? So Gabe took a couple of seconds, kind of cleared his head, and then in character started talking to himself like, not going to let that get me, not going to let that get, because of course he's been open about his, his mental health struggles and all this stuff. And you can almost see him like, this will not stop me. This will not stop me. And he played it into the character. I thought that was very clever. I thought that was a smart way to do it. Acknowledge what had happened. We all saw it. But also folded in was just like, tried something, didn't work, not going to stop me. I'm still in this. And I like the way they did that. Then it built up.
Did you hear him knock himself out on that move too?
Yeah. In post-match comments, he was just like, yeah, never doing that again. That was stupid. I got carried away and it did something stupid. And, Brad mentions that it's kind of a waiting around on the ropes for something to happen spot. And that's a fair point, that it does kind of look a little silly when the guy is just holding himself up for somebody to
kind of
hit.
A lucha spot.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That is a bit of a lucha spot. But anyway, then we started building to some big moves, and that turned out pretty good. There was a counter sequence on the floor that led to a pile driver by Gabe Kidd on Tsuji that looked really good. Tsuji was throwing some wicked chops in there too, by the way. He was really smoking Gabe's chest. Tsuji tried to spear, but ran into the knee for a great near fall. Turned the tables where Kidd went for the knee later, ended up getting hit with a spear. But it wasn't the full Gene Blaster. And after some back and forth, Death Rider, pile driver for the win. I enjoyed this one tremendously. Once again, Tsuji is now free for a G1 run. How did you feel about this one?
I thought that this was a good finish to this feud. This is been a years in the making kind of thing back when these guys were young lions. And then we had, the double knockout match back in February. So we've been dancing around this match for a while. And I don't know if we're ever going to get these two in a main event anywhere on a big show, but the fact that these two were the semi-main on this card, Shota Umino, nowhere to be found. All these guys have made it.
Yeah.
Like they are the top of their class, and they have worked their asses off to get here. And I think that this match really showed what they have to offer going forward. I am slightly concerned about Gabe Kidd's viability with him going back and forth with AEW, and wondering if that relationship he has with the crowd in Japan is potentially going to suffer from it. There was moments in this match where I kind of felt like that mystique and that relationship and that aura that he had kind of taken a hit while I was watching this match, but I wasn't sure if I was convincing myself that was the case rather than the aura and mystique of Gabe Kidd, since that match at Wrestle Dynasty with Kenny Omega has managed to sustain him to the higher levels in New Japan. And now he's going to run it back and do that match with Tanahashi upcoming. And so there's the sense that they're trying to get all these really big matches out with Gabe Kidd while they can. And I don't love it, but I understand the reality of it.
Yeah, it is something to consider. And you make a good point about how they are doing it now instead of later. And of course, after the match, Kidd compared he versus Tsuji to Muto and Hashimoto and Shinsuke and Hiroshi. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's
bold.
A lot. Yeah, well, yeah.
Hyperbole.
But afterwards, he said he wanted to wrestle Tanahashi. And of course, they tied all that in with Tanahashi crying at his efforts against Kenny Omega at Wrestle Dynasty. They will be facing each other at the Tokyo Budokan show that is coming up shortly. So that's on the way. And just like Konosuke Takeshita, Tsuji has lost the title, but is now shorter odds to win G1 than he was before. Yeah,
to greater glory.
Venkin and Brad have been debating that move that he missed there, and they make a good point that it works better in a tag team match when you have a partner that's at least either incapacitating the person on the ropes or holding them there or something like that, and it doesn't look as silly as when everybody's just kind of waiting for something to happen. True. Yeah, good point. But either way, I don't think Gabe's going to be doing that one again anyway, so he needs to stay close to the ground. There's a reason, like some of these guys, it's not the top rope's not for everybody, and doesn't have to be for that matter. So it makes the guys that do use the top rope look even better. IWGP World Heavyweight Title match: Hiroki Goto and Shingo Takagi. This one went almost a half hour, 28-25. Didn't feel like it. This one breezed right by to me. It was a great main event. Mm-hmm. It was all you would want, all you would expect from two men who are very proficient in these types of dramatic main events. I mean, Shingo basically lived in the Dragon's Gate main event for his entire run right there. He's been a major part of, I don't know how many New Japan cards since he's been here. He knows exactly what he's doing. So does Hiroki Goto.
Yeah, these guys knew the assignment.
This was fabulous. And I don't have to do the blow-by-blow for you to tell. This is exactly what you would think that Shingo and Goto would do. Shingo did kick out of a GTR. Been a little while since anybody did that. Goto did end up getting a second GTR to win after struggling through. And this match was a great ending to this show, a good palate cleanser after some of the stuff we've seen, where it reminded me exactly what we've been talking about, Jerry. This type of match is why I love New Japan. This type of real strong style, hard hitting, but this one was worked safely. No one was smashing each other, in the head in an unsafe way. They hit very hard in very safe places. They wrestled very, very well. It went back and forth. And the great thing about Goto is he's not unbeatable. He's never been portrayed as unbeatable. So there's a very real jeopardy for him every time he's facing someone like Shingo. And there's an almost desperation in the fans cheering for him because they really are willing him across the line because he might lose. It's not an upset to think that Shingo Takagi beats Goto, but that whole dynamic of him being a vulnerable but persistent and strong champion, but someone who can be beaten, that's terrific because it does give that sense of tension.
It can happen at any time.
Yeah, and that tension comes through, and you can almost hear it in the tone of voice of the people cheering for him. It's like, come on, this might not happen. And it's well done here, and this was a good example of it. And so, that was a
title defense now.
7th title defense. And afterwards, again, handshake and some kind words back and forth between the two. A lot of respect between Shingo and Goto. And then in the back afterwards, not in front of the crowd, but later on, Goto said, it is now time to settle things up with Zack Sabre Jr. Zack got his rematch. It ended in a double pin in that show that never happened, that we don't acknowledge here. But he does want to run it back. So part of Tanahashi Jam, which would be good news if we could see the damn show. But unfortunately, we cannot. Tanahashi Jam will be part of a television special in Japan, not broadcast live on NJPW World. And Chris Charlton in commentary hinted that we might be able to see Tanahashi Jam on World some point down the road, but it does not sound like, as Dominion happened, that anything has been in that direction. So Chris was saying, hopefully we'll be able to bring that to you.
Do you know how much I would lose my mind if Goto lost to Zack Sabre Jr. and the title changed and they couldn't put that show on World?
Yeah, that would be. I would
lose my mind.
That would be almost as frustrating as
I also don't think that's going to happen. So
no,
I came out of this thinking, well, Goto's going in as a strong G1 champion. I don't know if he's holding that title through Wrestle Kingdom with some of the other stuff that's happening right now in New Japan. I felt pretty good about that going into this show if he was going to win the title. But with the rise of some of the other factions and some of the way that things are laying out, I think there are possibly some opportunities for Goto to be vulnerable. But if it were me, you have Goto as the champion all the way through Wrestle Kingdom. He's had 7 title defenses going into the G1. If you have a guy coming out of the G1 saying, I'm coming for you, and he's the guy that can take down Goto after all these defenses, I mean, that's really the way you do it, right?
I mean, it's definitely a story, and they can keep throwing these defenses in. They've happened in a short period of time. Remember, he just won this thing at New Beginning. So they've been coming thick and fast, and
he loses 3 times in the G1. He's got 3 title, he's got 3 defenses afterwards.
Well,
right?
if he goes V8 against Zack, then 4 defenses can get you pretty close to Wrestle Kingdom, and all of a sudden you're looking at Okada's V12 record. Now,
if you go to
technically
Wrestle Kingdom
2 different belts, but
here's the thing: you can do that. You have the V8 for the title defense for Zack Sabre Jr. Then he loses 3 times in the G1, sets up 3 different challengers before Wrestle Kingdom, defeats all of them, and then you have V12. Can he match the Okada record? This guy, can he do it? And then that becomes the story against whoever wins the G1. And I really, really like that, but I don't know if that's the direction that they would end up doing.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But it's there if they want it, isn't there? They could kind of get into that whole, is he going to break the modern record and all this kind of stuff? So technically different title lineages, but we all know what we're talking about here. All right. And Brad mentioned I very much like this match a lot. 2 total pros just going out there and doing what they do best for our enjoyment. Yeah, it at least you left with a good taste in your mouth, that Dominion show, after a very uneven show overall. So, Jeremy, should we break down who's in what block now? I think this would be a good time to do it.
Sure, let's do that. I didn't know what direction.
Because Venkin mentions something important here, doesn't he? Venkin mentions, are Evil and Goto in the same block? Yep, they sure are. Here is who is in the A block. We have Hiroki Goto. Boltin is in there. Yuya Uemura. Yota Tsuji. So another Uemura Tsuji match coming. Nothing wrong with that. David Finlay, he's in there. Evil is in there. Sonata is in there. So we're actually going to get Evil versus Sonata. And I have no doubt that there will be unending shenanigans in that, but we'll see what they do with it. And then probably the biggest piece of news, considering it was almost a repeat of last year's lineup, but Hiroshi Tanahashi doing his one last G1 tournament. So hopefully his knees hold up. Bless him. I want this to go well for Tanahashi. I worry for his health because his body, it's hard for him to have 2 good matches in a row. You know, you can just see sometimes him coming down the ramp doesn't always go great for him. This is going to be a lot of work. We'll see what he can do with it.
The other 2, the play-ins are, I believe, Callum Newman versus Taichi. And then Ryohei Oiwa versus Don Fale. And the Taichi match is on the 23rd, and the Oiwa match, I believe, is on July 4th.
Yeah. The play-in matches are going to be 2 at Korakuen Hall coming up this weekend as part of the Seoul Tour. And then, as you mentioned, well, they're both going to be part of the Seoul Tour, but then
I was just going to announce the B people after we went through the line.
Yeah, and the Tokyo Budokan on July 4th, I believe. 4th of July is when that one's coming. Anyway, let's go ahead with the B.
If I had to guess, I would say Chase Owens and Ryohei Oiwa are the ones that make it in that one.
Yeah, and I'm going to pick that Drilla Maloney gets past Ishii and he goes in, and Taichi gets past, because I think
Taichi is the other one on A block. That's the one this weekend.
I feel like
Taichi. It's a Taichi. I'm feeling Taichi on that one.
And I feel like, as much as I love Tomohiro Ishii, I think a G1 might be a little much for him.
There are people that are arguing that, he wrestled a lot, but he wrestled a lot of multi-man. And he's only wrestled about 3 singles matches this year, rather than that being his bread and butter. So I think Taichi is the one holding up this tag team, and he's going to end up being the thing. I'm looking at this A block, and frankly, I think it's going to be 5 halves and 5 have-nots, where it's basically you're going to have Goto, Yoda, David, Finley, Evil, and maybe Hiroshi Tanahashi in a 5-way tie, and it's all going to be settled by tiebreaker. Because this one just feels like you can't have too many cream of the crop kind of thing. It's going to be a really tight block. And then what we're going to see is 3 people from each block move on. So the person with the most points in block play will get a bye. And then we will see second and third kind of play it off. And they're going to be crossed as well. So we'll get into all that with more detail as we go on. But 6 people will be moving on to the playoffs. In the very early prediction, who are your 3 to go forward at this point in the A block?
Well, I need to think about it. I need to see who else is in there, too, if I'm right about who gets the play-in spots. But to move on, I think the champion moves on but doesn't win the G1. So that would mean Goto going through. I think Tsuji should go through. Again, I think they took the belt off of him so that he could. And then after that, I think you got to have a heel in there. And so I think it'll probably be Evil.
I think it's Evil, too.
Yeah. And then on the B block, we have El Phantasmo, Shota Umino, Shingo Takagi, Zack Sabre Jr., Great Okan, Gabe Kidd, Ren Narita, and Konosuke Takeshita. This one, to me, is more difficult to pick. I'm not sure who all, except I feel real strongly that Takeshita will be in the playoffs. And probably Zach, considering the year he had last year. I don't think they would just drop him down there. And the others, I think it's part of their journey as to how far they go. It could be a storyline that Umino again comes up short. That type of thing. Shingo will be involved. I think Phantasmo will be involved fairly deep into this thing. Maybe not all the way until the last day, but I think they like Phantasmo a lot, and I think they're going to give him a bit of a run here. But Takeshita is the one I feel strongest about. Takeshita is one of my favorites. It's probably my favorite to win the B block. I am looking at Zack Sabre Jr. as the other guy in there, but I think he's going to have a much tougher year this year than he did last year. And of the rest of the block right now,
I got 2 dark horse candidates as to who could the third guy be. And one is Shota Umino.
Yeah, could be.
And the other is Great-O-Khan.
Okay. Just to give United Empire something.
They always do a little something extra with Great-O-Khan. They just kind of throw him in there. It's happened before, and you just like the surprise. Gabe Kidd has that title. Red Narita, it could happen, but if you have Evil in the other block, it's just kind of like, okay. And then Shingo just had a title match. El Phantasmo, he's got the TV title. There's just a couple of things there that make me think the only other thing is that Ryohei Oiwa could have a run, but if Zach is in there, I don't really think Ryohei is... Or wait, he's in the A block. I apologize.
Okay.
I got that one a little confused.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Great-O-Khan and Shota Umino, and I think that also kind of runs back some of the stuff that they had earlier in the year.
Let's take a look here to some of the comments we have. Venkin says, yeah, they might do a short Evil Reign somewhere in here. That's possible. Brad mentions that his prediction of Yoda versus Takeshita G1 final is alive and well for now. I think that could very well be it, by the way. I think that's an early favorite for the final right there. I think it would be a great match too. Venkin mentions that Evil lost to Tanahashi at Kingdom, so he might get his win back to set up a rubber match, perhaps.
That's disgusting.
And then Fernando thinking that Gabe Kidd winning the whole thing. And then Venkin says Gabe would take another 2 years, I assume. Like that. Well, yeah, I mean, it's possible that it might be a little while longer. But yeah, it will, of course, be examining this a lot more.
I think Gabe Kidd winning the G1 is better for Gabe Kidd than it is for New Japan.
Yeah, okay. Maria says that Shingo is the sleeper winner. That's, could be. I mean, that's a guy you always want to take seriously, and you can always count on him to have a great match.
Okay, so there are 6 guys, theoretically, that can win this G1, right? You've got the leader of the faction. So you got Hiroki Goto could win it. You've got David Finlay. You've got Evil. You've got Takeshita and Shingo Takagi, because I'm going to consider those that are unincorporated in the world title picture kind of in the conversation.
Yes.
So Shingo, Zach, Takeshita on the bottom level. You've got
Okan for United Empire.
Okan. But I think he can make post-block play, but I've never considered him as somebody that's going to win the whole thing. He's not.
I'm just listening to faction leaders right now, and Okan's a de facto faction leader, even if he doesn't want to be.
I should add the caveat, who have wrestled at the main event level at some point.
Okay. All right.
And then it's not completely out of the question that Hiroshi Tanahashi flukes his way and wins the G1. And then we do Goto and Tanahashi. That's what I was saying about this whole chalk thing, where if everyone goes 6-3 or 5-4, and he's got the right tiebreakers, and he's the third person in like the block, and then somehow it just kind of happens, it's not impossible.
What would be funny is that he's already had his theoretical last hurrah in the G1 where he won it and then beat Kenny Omega for the title. That's it's kind of funny.
I'm inclined to not think that's going to happen, but it's also, what is the biggest thing at the Wrestle Kingdom this year? Is it really going to be the G1 winner versus Goto or whoever has the title, or is it going to be Tanahashi's retirement?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a focus. And remember, the G1 winner doesn't have to go all the way to Kingdom with it. Didn't last year. So there you go. You can do it differently.
But everything about this is you can do a lot with it, because at the end of the day, that show's ending with Hiroshi Tanahashi's retirement.
And then Brad asks, what do you think about Zack Sabre Jr.'s booking going forward? It seems like he's going through the motions since dropping the title. Still very good in ring, but no plans. He's just there. Yeah, since he lost the belt, he's been a little bit lost in space. But he's getting a title shot at Tanahashi Jam. He'll put on a good show there. But I do feel like he's sort of waiting for something to do. And right now, he's just a really good wrestler on the card right now. He doesn't really have a story going. So a little bit like Oiwa even in TMDK, where it's the other guy's time to shine for a little bit. So, I think Zach is probably staying in third gear for a little bit. I think he'll turn it on when he's in that match with Goto. And then I think he'll be probably primed and ready to go for G1. But it's a fair point. I don't know if we're going to be seeing the fifth gear Zack Sabre Jr. consistently until he's got a story to tell. And right now he just knows that it's okay for other people to get the spotlight at the moment. I think he's pretty secure in his spot, but
yeah, he's totally in the right place. But I see what you guys are saying. I think Zack Sabre Jr. is a much better fit in New Japan right now if he were a heel. That arrogant kind of, I can beat anyone at any given time, really kind of fits better as kind of a heel mentality right now rather than being the baby face. And I wonder if this constant losing and just being up against the 8 ball is kind of a progression towards something else.
Funny thing, when Zach was a kind of a punk guy with Suzuki Gun, I remember seeing him live here in Austin, and he didn't have the full on Suzuki Gun personality or anything, but there was just something about him. And my girlfriend Ginger, she just said, "Oh, he's like every guy that was a dick to me in high school." And I was like, "That's well put. That's a good when he's in his little strutting and shoulders moving persona. That's a good way to put it for Zach. He projects that well." So yeah, that was Dominion and the G1 field. No guests whatsoever. Almost identical to the last year. We'll see what they do with it, and we'll see. Of course, we have play-in matches coming. So I want to go over New Japan Seoul briefly. We've got a little bit of time here, and go over.
There's enough. Like this had New Year Dash vibes to it, just with like how weird the card was. But we got a lot of new stuff, and I was really fascinated by it.
The first 2 days of the tour were in the Aomori Prefecture, which is as far north in Honshu as you can get without leaving the island there. And the first night was in Hirosari, drew about 1,105. It's just about what it did last year for the same tour, about 19 more fans there. And then Hachinoni today drew 1,006. Both of these about on par with what they have done in the past. So maybe not a Goto bump, but maybe again a little bit of maybe the Goto bump is offset by the Naito departure type of thing. So we have a new young lion. He debuted just yesterday, Tatsuya Matsumoto, and he wrestled both nights of the tour with Zane J. Both nights so far with Zane J. Of course, Zane J was part of the LA dojo system and was on the NJPW strong cards, was the defeated Matt Vandegrift for that strong survivor thing, and then decided to head over to Japan and work out of the Noge dojo full time. Zane J was absolutely working complete young lion style. And in these two matches with Matsumoto, which went to 10-minute draws, he was doing grappling, drop kick, body slam, Boston Crab. That's all you get. You get some submissions, you get some chain wrestling, you get a drop kick, a body slam, and a Boston Crab. Here's your match. Go ahead and show us the fundamentals. So even though he has worked American style before, we've seen him doing a lot of different moves. Didn't do them in these two. But I got to say, Matsumoto looked like he was in terrific shape. So did Jay, by the way. He looks like he's really tightened up. Good selling. And Matsumoto, for his first match, didn't look petrified, which is always good. So, yeah, it didn't look like deer in the headlights. It went fine. It went fine. How about that?
It was a perfectly cromulent 10-minute match.
And then we have 6 young lions now. It's been a long time since there were 6. The last time they had 6, they were able to do a young lion cup. Maybe we'll get one of those.
Have you seen photos of Zane J before he cut his hair?
No.
White boy cornrows into long hair.
Oh, okay. Shaved head's an improvement then. Good.
Yeah. Right. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now he looks like the beginning version of the Gabe Kid Pokemon before he turns into his final form.
Yeah, before he evolves up. All right. Yeah. All right. He's the Magic Carp before
let's talk about an evolvement.
Oh, yeah. So then we had Daiki Nagai and Masatori Yasuda, and they met in singles matches twice, one each night of the show. And after 23 consecutive time limit draws, they finally did a finish. Each of them got a win. Nagai got the very first one. Today it was Yasuda, both with the Boston Crab, but both are also seeing their movesets expand a little bit. We're starting to see them do a couple more things in those matches there. And so now they each have a victory over the other. They have gotten their first singles wins.
Do you know how many matches Daiki Nagai wrestled before he won a match?
How many was it?
I believe it was 48.
48. You know, the funny thing, this Young Lion system.
Singles matches, by the way. Singles one-on-one matches.
Yeah, because he's won a couple. He's been on the winning side of some tag matches, but wasn't involved in the finish. The Young Lion system, you don't work a lot of singles matches in New Japan anyway, unless you're a Young Lion. Then you tend to do them all the time, right? But for instance, I saw this stat, Jeremy. When Naito left the company, did you see this? That Naito's win-loss record in singles matches is a losing one over his entire career in New Japan, because even though he was pretty dominant for several years there, where he only lost a couple of times a year, he piled up so many losses as a Young Lion that overall he still had a losing record in singles matches all the way through that long New Japan career. All those years of being a pushed guy didn't make up for those constant night after night opening match L's that he had to put up.
All right, what else we got on this card worth mentioning?
Yeah, let's go through. We were not going to go over match by match. There's no point. But
Hontai.
Yeah, well,
Hontai.
Yeah, and House of Torture has been winning their tags, just getting the whole thing over. And like I mentioned, they're kind of divided up with heavyweights and juniors in some ways. There's one match that has DOUKI, Kanemaru, and Sho and company. And then there's another one that's more the Evil Sonata, Chase Owens, Fale group. Those aren't so good.
Number 5 is when it got weird for me, when I saw Taguchi, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura, all members of Hontai, wrestling United Empire. Yeah. I was like, okay. All right.
And like you mentioned that, yeah. And then El Phantasmo did work the first night of the Soul Tour and got the win over Hartley Jackson. Hartley Jackson's been taking the pins in the TMDK match for baby faces like, who was it? Phantasmo, and then Uemura took a deadbolt. That was pretty cool to see, because the guy taking the deadbolt does most of the work there.
Yeah, and Jackson taking the deadbolt was pretty nice.
Yeah, he's a pretty good athlete, and especially for a big guy like that to do a deadbolt. And then Jacob Austin Young, of course, in his usual spot of putting people over with United Empire, he's the guy that eats the pins. He put over Shota and Uemura in his tags there. But every match in these things, preview tags, these are house shows, so everyone had someone there that you figured would be the one to take the loss. Jado, Goto, Young, Jackson, or they have the Young Lions, the Kato and Murashima in there. So you kind of had an idea who was going to take the losses.
It's also really interesting to me that Yuya and Shota are now basically interchangeable. So much so that they basically switched positions in the matches between the two nights.
Yeah, they've been shaking things up slightly, like just like moving one guy from here into this match.
But it also tells you where like the valuations of each guy is. Like they have Yuya and Shota kind of in the same place, kind of thing.
And Brad says, imagine the outrage from American fans if American companies had Young Lions that didn't win for 48 straight matches. Yeah, obviously this is just a totally different presentation right there. But imagine the consternation, Jeremy, of they're burying this kid. But in American wrestling, that would be burying it. It's a different mentality, and people just don't go with it here the way they do in Japan. Japan, you understand that all these opening match losses are part of the journey, and they don't hold it against.
As if you're building to something greater, like you're learning something from your losses.
Yeah, American fans would just start chanting "loser" and "you can't wrestle" and all that kind of stuff, and you'd get that kind of crap from the American fans. But yeah, that was just different presentation. So yeah, and then Tiger Mask involved a little deeper in the card than he usually is here. We were seeing a lot of Tiger Mask. We don't usually.
Got a Tiger Mask, got a Togi Makabe on this.
Yeah, a little bit, and we're seeing Gabe Kidd and Tanahashi. We're seeing those previews there. That's another one that we're getting, and mostly it's Goto and company against TMDK, so they can preview Goto and Zack.
I see this card and I think of the time where we had Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii as the never open weight 6-man champions, and that was a good time.
Those were good days. All right, so let's talk about what's coming up this week. So it is a travel day tomorrow. They are, like I mentioned, they're all the way up at the very northern part of Honshu, and then Saturday they move a little bit south to Yamagata. That's mostly preview tags, but we're also getting a final road match, Tanahashi and Tomoaki Honma.
Oh,
yeah, that one's there. And Saturday, Yamagata Big Wing, and then Fukushima on Sunday. All tags, Young Lion singles matches, strictly house show stuff. back Monday at Korakuen Hall. This one has a little bit more consequence. It's mostly preview tags, but you will also get play-in matches. Ishii versus Maloney and Taichi versus Callum Newman. And again, I love Tomohiro Ishii. He's one of my favorite guys. I think that a G1 is a little much for him right now. Similar at a similar age, by the way, Minoru Suzuki kind of stopped doing G1s. It's a lot of singles matches in tough spots, and I think Maloney might be a better choice for that right now. And then on the other side, though, I mean, the journey, Taichi's got to get back into this after all this, right? I mean, I'm really rooting for Taichi against Newman here. One half of the tag team champs should get in. And the whole thing,
you got to set up a feud for them after
Taichi. Yeah, and Taichi has been so devastated for so long about missing out last year. I feel like it's got to be him. I hope it is.
I would prefer to have Taichi than Callum Newman in this year.
This year. That's not always going to be the case, but you're right. This year it feels right.
But I'm okay if Callum Newman is in there because I don't think either one of these guys are going to be making it to post-block play. Fair
enough. Now, in a non-New Japan show on the 24th, there is a pay-per-view, the Death Pain Invitacional. This is at Korakuen Hall, so they will clean up everything on Monday, and then Tuesday we're going to bleed all over the place. I have
a really weird week coming up. I can't promise I'm going to be able to watch this show.
I can promise you that I will not be watching this.
Okay, so we'll figure it out.
We'll keep track of it. But this isn't going to be one that I'm going to pop for. But it's mostly some New Japan guys are on here. The Nagai, Murashima, Wato, and Taguchi are in the opener against Freedom's guys. You know, the Freedom's crew. Rina Yamashita's showing up. There's an X on in a hardcore match. It's Rina Yamashita and X against Kenshi Fukumoto and Masashi Takeda. Let's see. We got Toru Sugiura teaming with Boltin in that one. That's an interesting one against Toru Yano and Tomoya Harada. That's interesting.
Sure.
Why not, right? And then in the main event, of course, junior heavyweight title on the line, El Desperado and Jun Kasai. Bless their picking ever loving hearts. God only knows what they're going to do to each other. And that one's coming down on Tuesday. And then what else we have? Oh, on Thursday. So after Tuesday, Wednesday's off. Thursday. So when we come back here next week, the 26th, they will be in Nagano for another mostly preview tag show.
We're going to have a lot to cover. Not sure exactly how much of it is going to be consequential coming into the next week, but I put some feelers out to some people to join us to do some G1 conversations upcoming. We'll see how that goes, but in general, you know, like we may not love the direction, but it is definitely more full steam ahead than it has been for the last month or so.
Yeah, we're busier, that's for sure. I'm not sure we're gonna like what we watched, like you mentioned, but we'll get through it together, by God. And let's see. I just wanted to see what all is going to be on World, and not all of it will be. There's going to be, I'm just looking at this for June.
And if people want to watch the New Japan Soul shows that we reviewed today, be aware that right now there's only Japanese commentary. They will be adding English after the fact, and that's going to be the case for the majority of this tour.
Yeah. It's also true for Saturday. Saturday's show is going to be on World. That's live in Japanese, English on demand. Now, they will be back with live Japanese and English commentary for the Korakuen Hall show on Monday. And so that'll be back then.
Very good. Are there any more comments that we need to get to in the chat?
We're going to go look at this. Brad says, looking at the card, it's really good. He plopped down the cash for the pay-per-view. And
I know it is, buddy. I know it is. I have watched these shows. I know that Kasai and Desperado are probably going to do a fantastic match. But I also, I don't use this excuse often, but next week is really going to suck for me.
And let's see what else we have. Venkin asks, can Okan just ask to get leadership? From what we've heard, it's been offered to him, and he's declined. Doesn't necessarily want to be the leader, but he might be. Maybe he wants to be an emperor. I also wanted to mention, not on the Soul shows, you may have noticed, is Hiromu, Francesco Akira, TJP, who's not over here very much, Tsuji. They're headed to Mexico. They're going to be at Arena Mexico on Friday night.
Shingo as well.
Shingo too. Yeah, Shingo. So
Shingo, Hiromu, and Titan are in a match against United Empire, and then Yota Tsuji has a singles match against somebody on the card, but I don't remember exactly who.
They'll be back soon. They're headed to Mexico City for a little bit. Colin asking, am I watching the Stardom pay-per-view in the weekend? Probably, yeah. And who do I think wins, Shuri or Suri? I'm going to go against some of the conventional wisdom. I think Shuri's going to retain. I think
Shuri,
I think they ponied up enough. But Suri would not be a surprise. She'd be an excellent champion. But I just think that they would have. I don't know. I think there's more to do with Shuri in that role right now, and rather
better
than
to elevate the title by beating Suri rather than having Suri being champion.
Yeah, and then rather than having a part-timer hold the belt for right now, that has caused more problems than it's solved over the years lately for the Bushi Road companies having part-timers as champions. Yeah, no kidding. All right, so all that's coming up. So when we come back next week, we will know a little bit more about who is in the G1. We'll have a few more shows from the New Japan Soul Tour under our belt, and hopefully Jun Kasai and Desperado will be done having stitches by the time we reconvene, but no guarantees on that.
You will have known whether we have accepted or declined the invitation now.
There you have it. So anything else you want to cover here, Jeremy, before we sign off for this week?
Just keep an eye out. I did watch the Okada Omega match that is on our homework assignment for Wrestle Kingdom. That match that we're going to do for the rewatchable. So that is on our calendar as well. Something that we will be doing soon. And man, that was a fun match. That's a winner.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that. When we have details as to when that's going to be posted, we will let you guys know as well. We'll be doing that with Garrett. So looking forward to it. In the meantime, we'll look forward to the matches this week as well. So thanks for everyone who has joined us live. Thanks for everyone who's listening to us later. We definitely appreciate your time. And for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong Style. We'll talk to you again real soon.